Hello, Peter. Hello, Frederic. Thank you to be here today. Maybe you can introduce yourself, Peter?
Just briefly, I'm Peter. I'm managing Grade and Credit Safe since 9 years now. And basically, my whole career, was spending it in data and insights, B2B data, so business information, and everything you can imagine doing with business information. So going from data to the insights. I'm very proud of what I'm doing with the company. We have like every bank, every leasing company, every telco in Belgium as customers. So it's an inspiring environment on which innovation is thriving.
And how old is the company?
Graden itself is 35 years old. Grade Save is 20 years old, and Graden and Grade Save joined forces in 2022.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice. And you, Frederic?
So hello, my name is Frederic. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Datavillage. So background in the financial industry. So I've worked more or less 20 years in the financial industry, in private banking, retail banking, a lot in cybersecurity. And we created Datavillage a few years ago with the objective to give away to companies to get access to sensitive data, but in a way that these sensitive data and high value data remain private and confidential.
Okay, very interesting. And is it you who founded the company?
So we are now 3 co-founders, so Quentin and Philippe, and we created the company in 2019, so already a few years ago. It took a bit of time to find the best way to translate the idea that we had into a technology and a product. And we are now, let's say, quite active with the product as of 22.
Okay, great. And if you go back in the history, how was the use of data by companies and governments those last 10 years?
Well, the least thing I could say is that it evolved. As I said in my introduction, Graden Credit is serving quite some banks, quite some leasing companies, and we saw during especially the last 5 to 6 years the questions shifting that our customers were asking us. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, companies were asking us to feed them with data, to feed processes, to have decisions on their side. What companies are asking us today is totally different questions. So we're seeking for different answers, obviously. And basically, they're asking the question, what insights can you give us on some various problems, challenges that we face? So we made a shift as a company going from data to insights. Through algorithms, we use AI. So our world has pretty much changed also from data to what we call actionable insights by which we feed our customers.
And what is the strategic benefit for the companies when they use your services?
There's quite some, I would say. I think the first one is efficiency. Efficiency meaning that every insight that we're providing companies or governments with is, at the end, is a number varying from 0 to 10. So red, orange, green stuff. And everybody knows that the decision around red or green is not a complicated decision. I got a son of 8 years old. A lot of these decisions could be made by Julien. His name is Julien. So you don't need human interaction in these processes. You need a human brain for the orange outcome. So basically, where human creativity, human interpretation is needed to come to balanced outcomes. So the first one would definitely be efficiency gains, but also, for instance, consistency. If you have a model that is driving decisions, you have consistency in outcome of decisions. You have auditable decision trails, which is more and more important. And the code word which we obviously often hear is digitalization. If you want to have speed in your decisions, take a bank that has to issue a loan. These days you can't say in it takes me 4 days to get to a decision around a business loan of 20,000 euros. So you need a split second. So it needs to be algorithm driven. It needs to be automated for the maximum of the amount of volume you can get to. And that's what we do. So in a lot of cases, we enable digitalization for companies through data, insights, algorithms that enter into a flow of a decision that companies install, or in the onboarding process, or in the monitoring of their portfolios.
Okay, so I see an evolution on the behavior of the companies. If we take specifically the financial sector, did you see those last year an evolution on what they are looking for?
Yeah, definitely evolution, but also challenges. I'm making also the link with what Peter just saying. So the financial sector is, of course, more and more digitalized. Everything is being digitalized nowadays. The last milestone would say is coming with AI. So all the remaining processes are also in the near future digitalized with AI. And in that context, we see also evolution and exactly what you say, Peter, in real time. So more and more process automation, but also real time. You mentioned in the credit, but in the payment, typically with instant payment.
Sure.
So everything needs to be instant. And also everything needs to be integrated or embedded in different experience, which makes then, today, it's not new, but it's the natural evolution within the financial sector, a sector which is more and more interconnected, integrated, which then come the need to bring data together to make these things happen in a real-time fashion, in an efficient way, and let's say connecting the dots with between all these different component or companies within the financial sector.
Interesting, but it means that companies they have to share some data. So how do you find the collaboration between those financial players to share their data? It's a question for both of you, actually.
So yeah, maybe I can maybe react on that one about the challenge related to that aspect. And Peter, you mentioned getting access to data, running algorithm to get insights, and so forth. So that's definitely one of the big challenge in the financial industry is in this very fragmented financial ecosystem. How can these organizations, because they know they have to collaborate and share data, how can they share data regarding their main challenge, which are often about compliance, but also security, security breach, which then make these organizations reluctant to share data. And that's where collaboration comes in. And I will just give a definition. We can come back a bit after, but that's important. The definition and the difference between collaboration and sharing. That is very important because that makes a big difference. And the big difference is about the fact that in data sharing, which is something known today, especially in the financial industry, the data are moving from one entity, let's say a data holder, to another entity, the data user or the data consumer, which means that the data are duplicated, which means, of course, adding and bringing a lot of risk and challenges because the data are duplicated, the risk are increased because the risk of security leaks and so forth and so forth. Collaboration is different, and I would even say secure collaboration, because there it's about making sure that the data stays at the side of the data holder. So they are never transferred to the data consumer. And another aspect, of course, is about getting the ability to run an algorithm on these data to get the insight, but not or without sharing the raw data. So that's the main difference between data collaboration and data sharing. You don't share the raw data, the raw data stays fully in control of the data holder, and the algorithm is able to run on the data to get an insight, and only the insight is shared with the data user, which then bring, of course, a lot of new opportunities, especially in the financial industry, overcoming these challenges about security, compliance, and so on.
Yeah, fully agree. I would say data sharing for us is nothing new because since whatever 20, 25, 30 years, basically we have companies sharing data with Graydon, being the ledgers of these companies. So we have insights of payment behavior of millions of companies. Just to give you an idea, we have 10 million new data experiences, payment experiences per year that we gather from more or less 1,400 partners sending us their ledgers. So basically, that's community data. That's data we're getting from our customers or even companies that are not a customer that were not a customer at Graydon. So the concept is nothing new. So obviously, we continue our payment experiences community. Then we added fraud, the fraud score, the fraud prevention score into the scheme. We went around, so we collaborate with almost every leasing company, a lot of banks, a lot of insurers around fraud in Belgium. And the holy grail, obviously, is to be capable of sharing the fraud cases in between them. So we started with the same way of thinking around our community data and experiences that we got within payment experiences. We started this exercise, but we rapidly, and you know everything about it, Frederic, we rapidly saw that companies were not willing to share fraud cases as they were willing to share ledgers because of the sensitive issue around fraud. So we got some companies who share some cases, and yes, it went on and on and on until we met Datavillage, and where we started to talk about anonymizing the data itself, but still being capable of drawing the same conclusions and insights from the data we got from our community. So it's a bit of the holy grail for us. And if you think about the potential, the possibilities we have when the boundaries of data sharing are not existing anymore, yeah, it's limitless. Whether it's companies sharing data or governments in between them sharing data, or governments and companies, private, public, sharing data, you know, your creativity is endless around benefits. So that's what we're chasing in terms of the common dream that we're having, Fred.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then it comes with a challenge because I understand the difference between sharing and collaboration in data. Um, how do you ensure in collaboration that the data remains really anonymous and really secure?
So I can share the magic then. No, but let me explain a bit more because there are some key principles. One of these is the one I just shared, which we think is really the basic or the foundation of protecting the data. Is that the data are not centralized, and exactly what you say about your ledger. In that case, the data are centralized, but of course, in that case, it means that the data will be copied from all the companies in one central place. This is something that will not happen with the fraudulent cases, as you mentioned. So the first thing is that the data will stay at the site of, in that case, the leasing company. So fully in control. That's the first element. Which of course bring a lot of technical challenge, but I will not go too deep into that. The second element is about making sure that, of course, if you need to process the data, you need to access the data. There's no magic. It's not that you can process the data without having access to these data. And there are two key elements which relates to removing the risk of breach. The first one is to make sure that the data are processed in an encrypted way, which compared to what's existing today, Typically, it's known today that you have encryption at rest, encryption in transit. The last mile is what is called encryption in use, which then protect the data during the processing, during the calculation of the insights. So the data stays at the side of the data holder, and at the time they are processed in an encrypted way. And the last element, which it's a bit new, so that's something that we have set up a few months ago. If you look about the data breach today, there is a lot of cases that are linked to the breach, not of the data, but the credentials. Because usually you share the credentials, and then the one that has the credentials can access the data. And that was the missing piece in our solution, because today we propose a way to access this data without sharing the credentials, which means that in that place where the data are processed, the credentials are not stored, which means that even if it's highly secure, the risk of credential leakage cannot happen, which then makes the thing a bit magic, because then these data are really protected and they stay during the processing, so in a very limited time frame during the processing, and it disappear just after having generate the insight. So that's how the data are so well protected from potential leakage from the outside world.
And I think it's an important added value to what we did in the past with the payment experiences. Basically, companies share data with us, totally, build on the trust in between two companies, the trust that companies in general have within our brand, Great and Credit Safe. But it wasn't sufficient. And I think the trust in brands and the trust in people is not necessarily replaced, but is reinforced by the trust in technology. The technology is auditable. Technology, is visible, which is a much more stronger argument to tear down the walls within data elements in order to be capable of sharing them. So the trust is like a super keyword in this process, and trust in technology nowadays is huge. Yeah.
I see that the collaboration between you guys, your companies are effective. How do you see the power of this collaboration for Grade on Credit Safe?
Well, for us, basically, it's very simple. We have quite a number of use cases that we start imagining. Some, whatever, 8, 9 years ago, we asked ourselves a question. Okay, we've been doing for decades what we've been doing, basically basing ourselves on business information data and providing companies with the necessary level of transparency when they were doing business. I sell to you, are you credit worthy? I'm going to check within Great and Credit Safe, and I will get an idea of your credit worthiness. So we started to look for other use cases that were important use cases that could help solving society issues, and so that serve a purpose. So we ended up, the first one was fraud, as you know, but we have other use cases like ESG, so sustainability. We have a crime prevention score, which police forces use to search for potentially criminal activities within, at first view, perfectly legal entities. The fish merchant that is also a drug dealer within his basement, stuff like this. But as we progressed, we saw that the topics were getting more and more sensitive. As you can imagine, fraud, criminality, sustainability, sensitive issues. You need, typical but also atypical data, known data sources, but new data sources. And so we got to our limits of our potential of feeding these algorithms with the necessary data. And exactly using new sources, new data, very often sensitive data. The software that Datavillage is building enables us to basically just better serve our customers with better use cases and better outcome. And so have more added value, more benefits for the customers, whether it's a company or a government. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. But it means also that you are enthusiastic about the collaboration with Gradon Credit Safe.
Of
Can you
course.
explain a little bit why?
Of course we are. Of course we are. I think what Peter just say speak on it on itself. A technology is nothing if there is no use case and business case. And so what we focus on Data Village is, as you mentioned, the software, the technology, and this is there that we have the expertise. And this is exactly in the partnership that we have with Gradon, that we found a way to exploit the essence of that technology in concrete business use case applied in a market that we know and we like quite well as well, especially finance and fraud. Working together on this use case really also for us showcase the potential of the technology, relying also on the deep knowledge that you have, as you mentioned, on what we can call the business of the data, because it's not so easy to see use case, even in an industry that you know, see use case and the data that could help to create new business opportunity. So that is there definitely where you with Gradon are really bringing the most added value is about being able to identify these data and turn these data into insights in a specific use case and market.
But I wouldn't. You refer to me, which is fantastic, and to Great and Creative, but I wouldn't see it too narrow neither. I always have this example of the hypermarkets of this world. So they buy, they sell. What they don't sell, but what they bought, they throw away. And at the end of the chain, there is somebody who consumes. And so obviously they have insights on their own pattern within this process, but they have no clue of what their neighbor is doing or what their competitor is doing. So imagine what insight you could gather if you gather all these data from all the hypermarkets together and then try to see to what extent, the exploitation of our globe, of the world could be, improved. Because basically we throw away 20 or 30 or 50% of what we produce. We don't need to produce that much for the number of people that we are. So there's use cases to be thought of that are way beyond my activity within Great and Create Safe.
Interesting. But I understand that you collect or you have access if you don't collect a lot of data. Those data might be very useful to train artificial intelligence models. I have a question for you, Frederic. If you use those data to train artificial intelligence model, how do you ensure that it's well done on a safety way? And also, how do you manage those sensitive data?
So it's a very broad question, especially nowadays.
You have 2 minutes.
AI. You have 2 minutes. Yeah. So the first thing is so the challenge is then to access these sensitive data to train an AI model, but of course making sure that again the sensitive data are not flowing all over the place. So there, from our pure technology and software perspective, that's exactly the same process. The main difference compared to what we just discussed about an insight, which is a score, in that case, the insight is then a model that has been trained or fine-tuned out of such a collaboration. And then you can apply the model later on in different contexts. So how can you make sure that this is secure? Same principle. You make sure that the data stays and the model training is happening in that confidential environment. Then, of course, there is the other aspect, which there it depends on the way you build the model. It's the challenge which is on the table today with these large language models, is to make sure that the data that have been used to train the model, if you revert the model, are not accessible afterwards. And there, in full transparency, we don't provide anything special for that. It's mainly based on the way you train the model and the fact that the agreement about the data and the usage of data is not reflected into the trained model.
Very interesting. I see two companies that are happy to collaborate. It looks like it's more a beginning than the end of the story. What do you see for the future in terms of collaboration between your companies?
Well, as I said, if you think about building insights for our customers, our existing customers, our new customers, if you think that our whole world is shifting from data to insights, definitely.
Does it mean that your company is going out of the pure financial aspect and data and to offer broader information, not only a financial one?
We did already. I mean, if I'm talking about a crime prevention score, the use case basically has got nothing to do with the financial sector, could be used on financial data, but not solely on financial data. Within a crime prevention score used by police services, we could imagine a private-public collaboration where we will definitely need Datavillage to anonymize the data. So I see a lot of use cases, and it's exactly what you say, Fred. Very often I say, Frederic, sorry. Very often I say our main métier is to translate the words of a company, of a government, into data building blocks and gather a use case from a story. And that's what we do. I hear use cases all day long. The question is not, is there use cases enough? The question is, where do we start? So we started definitely with this one, which is fraud, because it's like super tangible. It's a huge problem for insurers, for banks, for leasing companies. So there is obviously a use case to chase. But in my mind, I got 15 other use cases that could be super valuable use cases, or directly linked to B2B data, where we could do, where we could act, but not necessarily. I see plenty of use cases that have nothing to do with my own domain, but that could be very valuable in general for companies, governments, or society in general. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. To conclude, how do you see the future of relationship with Grid on Credit Safe for Datavillage?
Very simple. More and more use case. Building this use case together, as we do with that first use case. Solving problem that companies are not able to solve on their own. That's definitely something that we are looking for the future.
Great. It was very nice to have you around this table today. I hope that everything you said is useful for the people who will watch this video and listen to this podcast. And I wish you a very great success, because it's always nice to see collaboration like that in our ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.